Hello everybody and welcome to Rebellious Menstruation. This is a book review of Mimosa, which was written by cartoonist Archie Bongiovanni and released in 2023. It follows four chosen family members, Chris, Elsie, Joe and Alex, who met while working in their 20s at a coffee shop and have evolved through developing queerness and transness into their late 30s. Chris is a single parent struggling to find their place. Elise lost her 20s to caring for a parent that was ill and is now kind of in her 30s developing a career and a kind of better social life, but making the mistakes of a 20-year-old. Alex is hot and secretive, while Joe wants to grow in a way that will take them away from their chosen family. So Elsie, Alex, Joe and Chris. So to attempt to reconnect with each other, they throw a queer event for late 30s queers. Also, basically, it's kind of also a distraction to the questions they cannot answer. All four of these characters are deeply flawed because they're kind of human, basically. They're messy, disjointed, horrible to each other. And this kind of possibly is blamed on the fact that they're developing through, or it could just be that they're horrible people. Queer community can be a delayed adolescence depending on the the transition you go through as you grow up. So kind of growing into yourself is the primary one, but quite often queer people are trained and taught to hide who they are. This becomes more apparent particularly with queer people in general, but then if you kind of nuance in that community, I'm using queer as an umbrella term, but for trans people who may come out later in life, the kind of disparity between who they kind of hid as they were growing up and to who they become when they come out can be quite disparate. So yeah, this kind of the delayed adolescence or the delayed developing into who you are can be quite pronounced with queer people. Less so now, but still it's still there. But this continued growth through hard times often represents a loss of family acceptance and who you were before, and probably sometimes all of what happens is the dreams that you have along the way, or the dreams that you're presented to of how you grow up or who you grow up to be. So expectations are also wildly visceral and all over the place in this book. Some of the dialogue can be quite so I'm just trying to, I'm probably gonna post this and not. So as you can see, like, there are some moments in here that are explicit or can be explicit, depending on what you think of explicit to be. It's not that explicit, it's not adult material or anything, but there are quite clear suggestions in a lot of these. So the dialogue and exposition in this book can be all over the place, probably representing more of a tell not show, so it just explicitly tells you rather than shows you through character development. Sometimes this throws you out of the story, as rarely intimate friends as these are presented to be describe details of their lives that everybody else should already know. I read this twice because I actually really kind of disliked it the first read through. The characters in here read as immature and underdeveloped, and the issues raised and fought over that were frustrated and would mostly be solved by them just kind of speaking to each other and talking to each other. It was kind of like one of those, if you watch like any kind of, or what you imagine would be in a daytime soap, like this over dramatized situation which could have just been solved by the characters having a conversation. And this kind of really became more and more frustrating. But I think on the second read through, it was really this clunky expositional dialogue that really presented the characters in probably a very negative light. It came across as though they weren't really friends, that they were mere acquaintances. Alex's secret that's revealed basically caused him to be thrown aside from the group or out of the group. But it was literally just a personal secret. It was literally just like, it did not affect the rest of the group at all. And the only way it seemed to affect the rest of the group is if they would have been able to exploit that secret. So they would have got a financial benefit from his secret, but really that was them exploiting Alex. It was kind of really disappointing that their view when they found out Alex's situation was completely just disregarding him as a person, and was all like, oh, you didn't allow us to exploit you, how dare you. It was just super weird. And Alex is kind of just super extradited from the group. And whereas like the Chris character, the single parent, had multiple affairs on their wife, which basically directly led to their divorce, which is basically why she's a single parent. And yet Alex was the one who was unforgivable, which was completely not an unforgivable thing. And it was a very kind of strange comparison to see these two vastly different group reactions to these situations in a allegedly close friend group. And they act completely self-absorbed and awful to each other over them at the most minor inconvenience, which is kind of what Alex's was. I guess the perception of Alex's secrets was that it was inconvenient for them not to know his secret, whereas they knew Chris was having massive affairs on their wife, but that didn't actually personally affect them, that affected their wife, so it wasn't really that much of a big deal to them. So that's kind of what I mean by the characters are really like super self-absorbed, and it's kind of like very incongruent to how the start of the book sets up their relationship and their friendship. The first half they wouldn't forbade each other, they would have, but the second half they kind of drop out, and after all this disaster happens, and they kind of drop out on each other. However, this is probably a far more realistic view of how easily life falls apart and friendships can fall apart. Jay was the standout, which is this character here, was the standout and developed for herself, I think, far more clearly than anyone else in the plot. And I think Alex kind of exited the storyline, and so we didn't really get a follow-up with Alex, but I think Alex and Joe probably had far more in common in this sense, but while Alex got the very sharp end of the stick, but I think this released him from this toxic friend group before it completely devoured him whole. So I think these two who really did kind of get out of this toxic friend group in a way actually probably saved themselves, because it was a really unhealthy dynamic that the four of them had. But it is an interesting read. It is kind of interesting artwork in here. It's not very hugely stylized, but it does give an interesting perspective on what's going on. So Mimosa by Archie Bongiovanni. That's, I guess, my review of the book. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your morning, afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the day, and I will catch up with you all in the next video. Bye everyone.